Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mic'd Up. This is me, Anna Gupta, your host for today. So, today's guest has gotten a PhD from Brown University, a postdoc at Harvard and Berkeley, and 25 years of experience at Tribhuvan University. He is a best selling novelist, activist, one of Nepal's most distinctive literary voices. So, please, let's welcome Dr. Sanjeev Uprety. Hello, sir. How
Hello,
are you?
hello. I'm very good. Thank you.
So let's begin where it all started. So you grew up in Jhapa, right? And your father was a medical practitioner. He wanted you to study medical
That's
sciences.
right.
That's right. He wanted you to study biology, right? In fact, that's why you came to Kathmandu. But later I studied that you changed your major. Like you wanted to study literature after that. What made you change?
Uh, I think all of us have a calling in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like we started attending Amrit Science College. That was the only very prestigious science college at that time. But I was not doing bad in the class, but something was not fitting somewhere. Something was wrong, and on the way to Amrit Science campus in Kantipat, there used to be British Council at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and they used to have a library. It's no longer there, and I chanced upon that, and I went inside. There were a lot of books: Charles Dickens, Emily Bronte. Like there was a very famous writer who writes in a very humorous vein, P.G. Wodehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and I became familiar with those books, and I simply fell into love with the letters and words because everyone has a calling. For the painters, it's colors. For the musicians, it's chords. For the writers, it's words. So, so I thought that it was like I mean that was a crucial that brought about a crucial difference in my life, I think. And then I realized that, okay, I'm not doing bad in my studies. Maybe if I pursue this medical education, maybe I'll become a doctor as my dad is. But maybe I'll just become a mediocre doctor, because that's
Mm-hmm.
not really my calling. My calling is writing. So I changed my subject. I went to Darjeeling to North Point to do my bachelor's in English, and things just started rolling on. They took a life of their own from that point onwards.
That's great. Did you have to convince your father to let you change your
A
major?
bit in the beginning, but it was not a big struggle or anything. Like he easily accepted
Mm-hmm.
after I explained to him that like I will be a doctor if you really want me to do, but that's not what I want to do. Then he asked me what you want to do. I said I want to study literature, so he was fine with it.
That's great. Is there any person that specifically motivated you to, to change your major? Maybe it's a quote, or maybe it's a specific book that made you fall in
I
love.
can put my finger onto. Then maybe there was not particular one source, but there were many sources. Many people we meet they inspire us in one ways. My Nepali teacher in when I was studying in Chapa, Shiva Prasad Dahal,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also a crucial person. That he inspired this love of literature in me when I was still in Japa. I had not to come to Kathmandu, so he would be one person. And my class friend, and who is a very famous writer, this is Krishna Dharavashi. He has written a number of novels. So we were studying together in Japa, taking part in these poetry competitions, these writing workshops. Uh, so he was also inspiration. So many people have inspired me.
Yes, so there are many people who
People
you've
and thing. I'm also a
things.
bird watcher. I like to
Mm-hmm.
go watch the birds. My last novel, Hansa, actually
Hansa,
was
yes.
was inspired by the birds. I was when I was doing bird watching, wandering about the forest, looking at the birds.
Mm-hmm.
So that inspiration came from that side. So you can inspired by inspired by very various things.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your works, as you said, Hansa, right? So, Hansa is a very different kind of book. As you said, it's based on birds, and then it is a mythical story, it's a mystical story that makes you fall in love. But how did you exactly come up with the idea, or you thought, okay, it would be a good idea to write about this?
Actually, my first novel was Ghanchhakkar, and
Yes.
when I was revising the draft of Ghanchhakkar, I used to go to that area, Taudha,
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, and there is this very mythological pond there, and all kinds of like migratory birds come there. There are different kinds of migratory birds, but the locals call them Hans or Hansa.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call them. And I saw two different kinds of Hans there. Like one is like the local Hans ducks,
Yes.
who cannot really fly. They can fly only a little bit. And then there are the migratory Hans.
Birds, yeah.
They come from Tibet, from Mongolia, from various places during the winter, and they spend the winter in Tauda and then they fly away. So as I was looking at them, I thought that why not write a story based on the birds? Like so the actually in Hansa there are two parts of the same novel. One is the story about human beings, another is the story about Hansa or the birds. And these two stories they overlap into each other, they cut across each other. As far as the Hansa part is concerned, so the hero of that story is the local Hansa who cannot fly, and his lover is this migratory Hansini who has come from all the way to Mongolia or Tibet to fly. So this whole attempt, so he asks her, when you will accept my love? She says that I will love you only when you can fly. So he has no option but to learn flying. So this novel is about his attempt to fly, his and various failures, because it's not easy to fly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in a symbolic sense.
It's a very unique topic. It, in my opinion, it symbolizes what goes on in everyday life as well. But then you symbolize it through words, which I find very interesting. Talking about your first work, Ghanchhakkar, right? It became a bestseller. Did you expect it? What were your thoughts going into it?
I was not thinking about it in terms of bestsellers or the prizes or anything. That's not a major concern for me. Uh, I was writing because one thing is I love writing, and then the topic, the background of Hansa is like 2005 2006. A lot of things were happening in this country. There was the Maoist war going on. Many people were getting killed every day. A lot of violence on the streets and all that. And I thought that that was a kind of a social madness, because when we talk about madness, we talk about personal madness, and we go to a therapist who will try to treat you. That's a personal madness. But I thought that there is societal madness also. So I was trying to interrelate these two things, like personal madness and society's madness. So that's how Ghanchhakkar came about.
Yes, it actually portrayed the situation of Nepal at that time very accurately, I believe. Now, you played many roles in Nepali literature. Do you see yourself as a novelist first, or a critic, or an academic, or anything else?
I think all of them. I don't think we have to choose, like try to fix your identity into a particular box, because I've done writing, I've also acted for theaters, and I've
Yes.
done art criticism, and I am also an activist. So all these things are various parts of my being, I guess.
What is your favorite play? Because you mentioned that you're interested in theater. You do a lot of theater. What is your favorite play?
There are lots of them, like Samuel Beckett's plays I like, and in Nepali plays, some of the Nepali plays are very good. Actually, Ghanchhakkar was turned into a play also. I didn't
Yes.
act into that. But another play I really like is Albert Camus' play called La Juste, that was translated into Nepali. And I was fortunate to act the main role in that play when it was performed in Gurukul. So that is also my one of my favorite plays.
That's great. Are there any stereotypical notions set on Nepali literature, let's say in the South Asian context, that you think are true and some are not true?
Stereotype, typical meaning. Can you explain a bit? What exactly
Like,
do you mean?
Nepali literature, the यस्तै हुन्छ, like there's just a factor about that everybody thinks is true, but it is not.
No, I don't think I've come across that kind of perception. But if it exists, then I think it's totally fallacious, because how can you like box an entire corpus of literature and make a statement like that? Because literature is ever evolving, changing. New writers are coming every day,
Yes.
and I'm so glad that the women writers, even writers from Dalit communities, like people, because previously most of the writers used to be from Kathmandu. Now people from Taplejung or Dadelthura or Kailali they are writing, so that's a very positive thing. So Nepali literature, like any other literature, like Indian literature or British literature or American literature, it's not one thing. It's always keeps on changing. It keeps on evolving. So it's difficult to say, make a overall overarching statement like that, like Nepali literature is like this, because Nepali literature is always shifting and changing. We cannot, like put it into one category or fix it like
I,
that.
I totally agree with you. You've written and studied about masculinity, post colonial identity, and societal justice for decades. What attracted you to these certain topics?
Post-colonial studies and masculinity studies, they were part of my PhD and my postdoc. When I was doing my PhD, the area was post-colonial literature, and that was, that the element of masculinity studies was also there. But later, when I did my postdoc, so I did postdoc on South Asian masculinities. So that was part of that, and all these things, to my mind, they are also tied to this whole question of social justice. That's why I'm also in the streets as an activist. I believe that, whether men, women, like, and of people of different classes, of different, have speaking different languages, belong to different geographies, they should all have equal opportunities to grow and fulfill themselves. And when that is not there, something is lacking in the social justice. So all these things are like interrelated to me in that way.
So, talking about masculinity, post-colonial studies, and societal justice, what is one thing that you think that Nepali society still refuses to face?
uh, Regarding masculinity, I think all men should be more aware of, like, what it means to be a man, for example, because the society has taught, because, or we have been socialized in a certain sort of way, in a certain way, that men are supposed to be, supposed, quote unquote, that, they are born aggressive, and, they should be dominating all the time. And if you cannot dominate, or if you cannot be aggressive, you're not a true man. And that can create problems in relationships also. And because, if you, whatever relation you are, whether you are a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife, I think that should be based on friendship and equality. And if someone is dominating and someone is being dominated, then that's not the equal basis for friendship. So that affects people throughout their lives also. And uh, and my research on, like, gender violence in Nepal in regarding to masculinity is also revealing that, like, because of this aggressive model of masculinity that is also popularized by Bollywood and Collywood and Hollywood and all the movements, all these things, by the hoarding boards, everything, saying that the aggressive model of masculinity is the only masculinity. So that can also lead to a lot of, like, gender violence, as there's not only me, like, a lot of global research is showing that. So men should look carefully about, what it means to be a man. And so, being, I think that, being, because this is how the media and everything portrays, is that, like, being aggressive and dominating, if you can dominate someone, that's cool. That's no longer cool in my view. Being kind and understanding is being cool, right?
Breaking those stereotypes is,
Exactly,
yeah.
that's being cool.
Um, that is great. I watched, like, I think in one of your interviews you talked about relationships, right? And you said that you were best friends with your wife before you got married. I thought that was like very sweet. Could you share a bit more on that?
Well, we were studying together at U, and so our relationship has multiple layers. Like, so first we were friends before we got married, and so the relationship continued in the same way. So she's still my best friend. She's also a publisher,
Yes.
so she has published my books also. So my relationship with is also that between a writer and a publisher, and she is also my strongest critic, as I am her critical also. So that's sometimes that can lead to, like, tense situations also, because no writer wants to get criticized, strongly, at all times. But we are very. She's also a writer, but you need that criticism, and criticism always makes you better. So I'm very fortunate to have my friend and my wife and my publisher all rolled into the same person.
It's amazing because I find it very sweet, and I learned actually. I learned about that from your interview. So, you did your PhD at Brown, as I mentioned before, and your postdoc at Harvard and Berkeley. So, you must have spent quite some time abroad. How did coming back, change how you saw Nepal?
Yeah, especially there are a lot of ways, of course, but it's a short interview, so we cannot go into all those matters.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say is that the method of teaching, because I'm sure that things are different with your generation now. But when I was studying, like teachers were something we were scared of. We could not ask them any questions, and the teachers didn't welcome all those questions also. Like, so you are just there, and the teacher gives you some kind of truth, and you just consume that truth. And the education system turns into you into a consumer in that way. And in the West, my experience was like there is a more friendly relationship between the teacher and the students. And when I was doing my PhD and other things, I was also teaching at the undergraduate level
Mm-hmm.
there. So I had my students myself. So I used to mix with my students and like go have coffee with them. That was considered quite normal. Talk with them, and even in the classroom, like instead of the teacher coming and giving you the truth, so the teacher would just set out this emotion, like discuss a bit of things, and then the class discussion would take over. So everyone would come up with their opinions. The teachers would intervene, but not all the time. So instead of teacher giving you a truth for you to consume, truth is something that would emerge out of the discussions themselves. So that's a kind of a kind of a classroom. So I found interesting.
Did you apply these at TU as well? Because you
I
had
tried to. I
a.
tried to. It was difficult when I was teaching at TU. Now things are different, but when I was teaching, there were like in the Department of English where I was teaching, there were like 200 students.
Mhm.
So it was very difficult to have that, like the same kind of discussion, to run it on a discussion model. In the smaller classes, you can do it.
You spent about 25 years at TU, right? Did you ever feel like connected to the students?
In a way, actually, I did. I always had a good relationship with my students, even before I went to US. One of the reasons is that when I started at teaching at TU, and I studied directly at the master's level, I had no experience of teaching at the bachelor's level or like before that. So my first job was I'm teaching at master's level, and many of the students are older than me. That was the situation I found myself. Like I think I was the youngest teacher at TU at that time. So they became like my friends. So that's how my teaching journey began. So that continued in a way
Hmm.
even later.
Was it hard for you to leave TU because you spent 25 years at the university?
No, no, because I had this option of teaching for another 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is I wanted to retire early to spend more time with my family, and then I also had other interests, and I had also already taught for 25 years. And one day I thought, 25 years, that's quarter of a century. You can't do one job for more than more than that. So that was quite enough.
Did it change your writing style in any way after, maybe during your time at TU or maybe after you left? Did it help you, change your writing style?
My experience at TU,
Yes.
I think in a certain way, thematically also, even because even Ghanchhakkar, a lot of scenes happen around TU,
Okay.
and Tauda, another location for Hansa, that is very close to TU at Kirtipur. So I used to drive there quite often to prepare for my classes. So even the location wise, I think it is somehow related to my experience of teaching at TU at Kirtipur.
You're a writer and you're also an activist. So, do you think sometimes that these two roles pull against each other or
No,
they oppose each other?
I don't think so. I think they're complementary,
Mm-hmm.
because after I retired from TU, I started, like I started going to the streets, meeting all kinds of people, and as you know, the Maitigar Mandala,
Yes, yes.
that's the kind of a space for protest in Kathmandu. And I saw a lot of people coming there, rape victims, like cane farmers who were not paid, and environmental activists, and all kinds of people I was meeting there. Even the common people who don't get justice by the regular means, they would come there and protest. And so that was a learning experience for me. Actually, that became another university for me. That was no less than Brown or Harvard or Berkeley.
Mhm.
Like the street itself was a learning experience for me, because most thing we learn from is from the University of Life. And there I learned, like many things that were remained invisible to me when I was teaching at TU. One thing is, and this another project I'm working on. It's a non-fiction. It'll be coming soon. Is this concept of structural dividend that I've been using, and structural dividend meaning all of us, you know, because of our birth, we get certain dividends. For example, as a man, because it's a patriarchal society. When I'm born here as a man, I get certain dividends, certain benefits, for which I don't have to struggle. I just got them because I'm a man. A woman does not get that. And then if you belong to a certain class, economic class, again you get some privileges. You are born into that, right? If your mother tongue is Nepali, you get certain privileges. Unless if your mother tongue is Bhojpuri or Limbu, that dividend is denied to you. Geography. So there are geographical dividends, linguistic dividends, dividends or benefits related to class, caste, etc., etc.,
Gender.
gender,
Yes.
and everything. And I realized that the many of things in my life that I achieved as a professor, as a writer, it would have been very difficult for me to achieve those if I was not born with those dividends. This does not mean that merit does not count. This does not mean that the hard work does not count. They do count, but apart from that, all the dividends that you are receiving also contribute towards your success. So then I started thinking that what about the people who have less of those dividends than me? If I was born a woman, if I was born as a Dalit, right? If I was born with a different mother tongue, or if I was born in a very remote part of this country, maybe it would have been, like 100 times more difficult for me to do what I did. And I think, especially those of us, because all of us do receive structural dividends of various sorts. Even if you are, for example, if you are a woman, you might not receive that benefit related to gender, but you might receive the benefit related to your economic class, right?
Yes.
So all of us do receive that dividends in different ways. The thing is that we need to be more aware of this. And when we become more aware, we also create this empathy towards the people who are less privileged than us. And then this desire to, help them when they are fighting for this justice that they are not getting. So that took me to the streets. And that also, in some ways, I think that has shaped my writing also, especially the non-fiction writing and all those things. So for me, all these things, writing and activism, they're complementary. They are not contradictory.
Nepal as a society is trying to improve. It is improving, but then there's still, as you mentioned, a group of people who are not getting the equal rights or the equal dividends as they should. But that is just the sad reality, and as you said, we have to make other people more aware about it. You also mentioned that you met a lot of people at the protests that you have been to. Are there any stories that you would like to share with us about those
No,
people?
whom I met where?
No, no, actually, like when you go to protest, right? You said that you've also encountered many people, like rape victims and other people. Are there any stories that touched you?
Lots of them. I cannot remember. I don't want to talk about one particular
Okay.
incident, but the whole scenario of it. Like there were these women, the group of women who had come from Nepalgans. They walked on foot. That was also their part of the political protest. They walked on foot from Nepalgans to Kathmandu, and like if you looked at that, even their feet were bloodied, and uh, so that was a kind of a, and it's an illusion and maybe a writerly imagination, but like I was looking at the bloodied feet of one of those women. I said, that was only, maybe it was just imagination. I thought for 1 second, I thought, I could see the map of Nepal on her feet, like.
That's amazing. So, we have a fun segment. So, I would be saying statements, and you have to guess whether it is real life or it is just a plot that we made up.
I'm not very good at these things, but shoot, we'll try.
Okay. So, a man in Kathmandu was caught smuggling gold hidden inside a pressure cooker filled with actual dal.
It is possible.
So, it is real life or plot?
It's difficult to decide. I, I'm sure that you are going to ask me the similar questions. It will be very difficult for me to decide. So ask me one more question, and then then. But
Okay.
yeah,
So,
we will see.
okay, so another one was a Nepali man in Qatar sends money home for 10 years to build a house, but arrives to find that his family has built a temple instead.
It's possible.
Both of those were real life. It actually happened in real life.
Yeah.
Okay. A retired professor finds his own novel selling for less than a cup of tea at a bookstore, and he buys every copy to just to burn them down in his garden.
That's also possible.
Are you sure?
I mean, all these things are possible. I mean, they might not look like possible from a general perspective, but for in individual cases, such things can happen.
That was actually a plot that we made up. But then, that is possible. I mean, anybody would get mad if they saw that a bookstore is just selling that their piece for less than a price of teacup. Um, a Nepali village elected a dog as honorary war chairman to protest all the human candidates. They did not like any of the human
This
candidates.
sounds like a pure fiction.
That is. So now moving forward, you've said that your only competition is with yourself. What does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
That is, that, I think that's crucial, because in life the main thing is to like find what you want to do. For me, it was writing, as I said, and I write because that's what I love to do. Like, even if, let's say, for one instance, that no one would be publishing my book, I would still write, because that's some people do gardening. I'm not saying that writing is some kind of superior than them. They are just one of the different things that different people do. So some people do like music. So writing is a way for me to achieve inner harmony, peace, also satisfaction. And my aim is to keep on writing, keep on revising, trying to make my works better. Not in comparison to what other writers are doing. I'm sure that there are better writers than me also, and in the past also, and I'm sure that there will be much better writer than me in the future also, because times are always evolving. Like, so but instead of like competing with other people, I think, for me at least, is best way to compete with yourself, keep on challenging yourself, try to get better each day, and it works for me. That's how I take it.
Getting better, in my opinion, is just an achievement in its own way.
Of course.
What is good writing to you? When you say that, okay, he is a good writer, what does it mean?
It depends on the genre, what kind of genre you are using. Of course, the same standards cannot be applied to, for example, fiction and non-fiction and poetry. That will be different. For good writer, for me, as a fiction, if you apply it to fiction, fiction is a different genre. For example, compared to poetry, in fiction you have to create a world, right? Just as there are human beings outside, we meet people, there are relationships, there are houses. If you write a novel, again you do the same thing. In the novel also there are houses, there are people, there are streets. So in a way, if there is God, that is, I don't know, if there is God, you are competing against God, because God creates this world, and you create this internal or different world, alternative world, where the same things are there, right? So main thing for me would be to what is a good writer is how consistent that world is. That there should be inner logic of and inner consistency within that world, and like, that is one thing that drives me to create, to play with the words, and by arranging the words, by words create a world that is internal, contained, self-contained. It has its own internal logic. And another thing that makes me happy is when I read when I find my readers, and they tell me that I read Ghanchhakkar, or I read Hansa, and I reach this particular scene, and they talk to me about those scenes, then I feel that I feel happy because I feel that I have created this world, and these people are now inside that world, and they are talking to me about the world that I created, and they also visited the same world that I created. So that's shared experience. So that also gives makes me happy.
I love the analogy where you compare fiction writers to God because they create their own world. Um, in Nepal, at least, there is a preset notion for young readers or writers that there is no actual career in writing, right? How would you like to answer to that?
In a sense, I think because you might be right, if you write only in Nepali, I think the possibilities are very limited. But if you write in English and other languages, there are greater possibilities. But then I think the platforms for writing are also changing, because for my generation it was basically a published book, right? You can now in other platforms for writing, like
Ebooks,
e-books
Kindles.
and Kindles and other mediums are coming up.
Mm.
So traditionally, yes, but I think also a new world is opening up, especially for the people of your generation. So I think so, so there might be a career. You might be able to build a career that way in the days to come, as the new technologies arrive and the new forms of writing and reading come up.
Yes, I think more people, more youth would be interested in writing since there are so many new technologies, new platform being available to them. Um, what is your biggest inspiration? I know it might be a common question, but who or what is your biggest inspiration?
One of my inspiration is my dad also. As a doctor, he worked in this village for like 50 years. That's he wanted to do. He he and devote his life to serving the poor people, and he did that consistently from like he used to work from morning to evening. His clinic in Jhapa where I grew up. There, and his fee, because you would be amazed. His because the doctors are very expensive there these days. His fee was 1 rupee for a number of years
For consultation?
consultation, and that was done deliberately, and by the time he retired his fee had gone up to 10 rupees. So he did that for 50 years. And so we used to have, like our house was like flooded by the people, because the, first of all there were very few hospitals, and the hospitals that were there later they came up, but they were expensive private hospitals. His was also a private clinic, but the fee was so cheap that we used to get like his patients from all over the eastern part of Nepal. And once, the same friend of mine, Krishna Dharavasya, who I said is a very famous writer these days, he made a calculation. He took out a calculator and calculated, like how many delivery cases, many people used to, there were like many births in our house, because people used to come for like women, they used to bring women for delivering the babies. And then he took out a calculator and he started calculating, like per day, this many people were delivered in your house. So how many per month or how many years? And for 50 years, how many people were delivered in your house? And he came up an amazing number that it might not be totally accurate, but it might be very close to that. He said that 36,000 people were born in your house. And oh my God, I'm surprised. If you look at that, the Maoist war that raged for 10 years, 18,000 people were killed in that war. So twice the number of that, 36,000 people were born in my house. So, so that is one amazing thing. So whenever I go, wherever I go these days, even in US or Europe or some city, I always find people, some Nepali who tell me that I was born in your house.
That is honestly so surprising, you know, seeing the cycle of life actually. Um, what is one advice that you would like to give our young readers, our youth of Nepal?
I would say the same thing, follow your calling. Main thing is that I would advise that try to find what you are good at and what makes you happy. Because there people say that this person is talented, this person is not talented. I don't believe that. I think everyone is talented. We have to find what we are good at, then you would be talented. And if you have the talent to become a, for example, a musician, but if you are trying to become a businessman, then you won't be a good businessman. So you have to find the exact talent, and there are so many ways to do that. There is internet and so many other platforms where you can explore what is your real being, what is your calling in life. But once you decide it, just stick to it and work hard. Is what I would say.
Motivation, hard work. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is one book, one play, any literary work that you would suggest to our young readers?
Uh, Maybe Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea. That's one work I really liked. It's about the struggle of a very simple work. It reads like a fable, and it's about a man trying to catch a fish. That's the whole plot. But at the symbolic level, that says a lot about humanity, what it is to become a human, and all that. So I would recommend that book.
Learning about humanity is very important in today's day and age. So we're coming to the end. I would like to ask, what are you currently working on, or what are your future projects? Any plays, books?
I I was working on a novel, but it kind of got delayed. But it might come in 2027. It's it'll be fiction. But before that, as I was telling you, maybe next month. This my this it's gonna be a short documentary, really short book about 22,000 words about that structural dividend, that concept I was talking to you
Mm-hmm.
about. I've written various pieces about that concept in various newspapers, journals, etc., etc. I've talked about that in my interviews also. I'm trying to bring them all together and compile them into a singular volume. So I think that will come in next around sometime next month, I guess.
Mm, I will be sure to read that. Are there any topics that you haven't found the courage to write about?
I haven't found the right to courage.
Like, you want to write about a topic, but then you're
Yeah,
just skeptical about writing it.
yeah, that's true. If I had this choice, like uh, I would want to write about the struggles of the Mushar community in
Mm-hmm.
the Dalits, which are the lowest of the low. Even in the Dalit community, they are very low level. And I went and with my activist friends, went and really looked, and I spent some time in the Mushar village in near Janakpur, etc. And also, I want to write about other marginalized communities. But the problem is that I somehow I feel, like I feel like an imposter, when I'm writing about that, because I don't know that community well. I go there for 3 days, 4 days maximum. I don't even know their language. Yes, I can talk to those people and create a kind of a fictional form, but would that be authentic? And if I do that, maybe I'll be misrepresenting them in some ways because I don't know their culture that well. And misrepresentation is also kind of a violence
Mm-hmm.
after all. So, so there are certain things I want to write about, certain communities I want to write about, but and I think their stories are important, and their stories should come to the mainstream. But then I ask myself, maybe I'm the right person to do that or not, because of my lack of the language and lack of their knowledge of their, the rituals and culture. Because you can go there as a tourist, you can take photographs, you can talk to
Mm-hmm.
those people, and then write something. But somehow that's not authentic enough for me.
I totally understand, why you're skeptical about writing about such topics. So I think that was it for today. Thank you for being on this podcast.
Sure.
It was a great pleasure to have you here. And for our audience, as famously said, one person can make a difference, and everyone should try. So once again, thank you for being on this podcast,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you for having me.
We also have a small gift from our team to you.
Oh, wow. That's something. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
It is a
Wow.
picture of you that we drew.
Yeah, this